So in this video, we're going to take a look at the recent developments that Search Group International and Peter Faulding have currently been removed from the National Crime Agency's list of experts. Firstly, I'm going to take you through a newspaper article discussing this news, and then we're going to take a look at the search for Nicola Bulley in a little bit more detail. Specialist divers who failed to find Nicola Bulley have been removed from the National Crime Agency expert list. The specialist diver who claimed he'd find Nicola Bulley if she was in the River Wyre has reportedly been removed from the National Crime Agency's expert list. Peter Faulding's Specialist Group International, SGI, has assisted in several high-profile investigations and joined the search for the missing mother for 3 days before he sensationally guaranteed she was not in that section of the river. According to the Times newspaper, SGI was this week dropped from an official list of experts recommended to assist in investigations on the Expert Advisors database. An internal review is expected to be carried out and could result in the group being reinstated. A spokesman for the National Crime Agency told the publication, quote, "The NCA does not employ, endorse or accredit experts on our advisor database." The database is subject to continual review, and its purpose is to maintain a list of expertise UK law enforcement can draw upon when required. We proactively seek feedback from customers regarding experts' performance and contribution. The monitoring of performance equally applies to individuals and organisations who become involved in investigations without NCA engagement. Mr. Faulding, 60, scoured the River Wyre for 3 days after she vanished on January the 27th. After her body was tragically located in nearby reeds, he said his high-tech £55,000 sonar can only scan in the water and cannot travel through reeds. At the time, he said, quote, "The SGI underwater search team was tasked with searching the river upstream of the weir in the non-tidal part of the river, past a bench where Nicola's phone was found and a mile upstream past this point. For 3 days, using high-frequency side-scan sonar, we thoroughly searched the riverbed and can categorically confirm that Nicola was not laying on the riverbed on the days that we searched. We did search the stretch of river where Nicola was found for 4 hours on our first day, and then upstream past the weir on the subsequent 2 days. The police underwater search teams and land search teams were searching for 3 full weeks and were also unable to find Nicola. Sadly, the discovery was not found in the river, but in the reeds at the side of the river, which was not part of our remit, as the side-scan sonar does not penetrate reeds above or below the water. A riverbank and wade search team would be the only way to search this area, and we were not involved or tasked with that search. The difference between these two search areas has caused a lot of confusion and unfair criticism towards myself and my team at Specialist Group International. My previous comments saying that if Nicola was in the river I would find her still stand. My team and I at SGI did all we could to assist this family with only our best intentions. I am sure I can say this of everyone who has been involved in this difficult search. He has not commented on reports he has lost his status on the NCA database. Mr. Faulding has worked on high-profile cases before, including the 2011 case of Kate Prout. Right, okay, the first thing I want to touch upon here is a little bit confusing because it discusses where they searched during the earliest stages of approaching the River Wyre and their first days at that particular location. But it mentions there, the SGI underwater search team was tasked with searching the river upstream of the weir in the non-tidal part of the river, past the bench where Nicola's phone was found and a mile upstream past this point. So to me, initially that gives me the impression that they are tasked with the bench area upstream. And I guess the reason for that is because the last eyewitness account of seeing Nicola Bulley comes from the upper field direction, so from further upstream than where the bench is actually located. But then in the next paragraph he goes on to state the following: "We did search the stretch of river where Nicola was allegedly found for 4 hours on our first day, and then went upstream past the weir on the subsequent 2 days." So it's really confusing. On one hand he said we didn't search downstream of the weir, we didn't go past the weir, we searched from the bench area upstream. But then in the next paragraph, he's mentioning that they did check the area where Nicola's body was found. So that is clearly a lot further downstream than the bench location. Now, before we continue, I do want to make it clear that I completely and utterly respect Peter Faulding's involvement, the fact that he went there with his equipment, with his search team in order to help find Nicola Bulley. But it's little paragraphs like this that I find quite confusing, because where they actually searched is incredibly important. And I've expressed this in previous videos. My personal belief is that they focused quite a lot early on in the area from the bench upstream, not the bench past a weird location. And that is incredibly important to remember. Now, for me personally, why I believe this is so critical to understand is that now we are faced with a lot of people who, quite rightly so, have questions. Why was this body found 23 days later? How did they miss this? Why wasn't the body recovered earlier? Has something else taken place here? But what I want to try to get across to the viewers is look at this from the perspective of the police and the search teams at the very earliest stages of this search. They are searching from the bench area upstream, not the bench area past the weir. And I think that's really important to remember. Look at what they are faced with when they arrive at the scene. They are faced with a dog that is running free. They've got a phone and a harness located in the vicinity of that bench area. So naturally, they're going to look directly below the bench area. And then they have an eyewitness who actually saw Nicola on the top field. So at this point in time, they have a choice, don't they? Do we start from the bench and go downstream past the weir? Or do we start from the bench area and work upstream from her last known location in terms of an eyewitness account? Another point worthy of consideration in terms of the choice to search from the bench area upstream comes in the form of the time which has elapsed between the disappearance and the police divers actually entering the water. Because if they attend this scene, they see these items at the bench, they think to themselves, okay, we're going to search the water directly below the bench incredibly thoroughly. If this has been an accident, she hasn't gone far from this particular location. That's important to remember. If it was indeed an accident, she wouldn't be very far, would she? She wouldn't be very far from that bench location. So then they search that area and she's not there. So they then move to the last point where she was actually seen by an eyewitness, which is upstream. And that's really important, that they search from the bench area upstream and not the bench area past the weir. Peter Faulding also came out with a statement a few days after he returned home and the potential vulnerabilities of Nicola Bulley were released out into the public domain. And he made a very relevant point. He said, actually, I could have done with that information because it actually changed my search strategy. And I can see what he means here, because all of us at home were looking at this case with really three possibilities here. This was a tragic accident, or maybe she was abducted, or maybe she left by her own accord. Those were the three main hypotheses that many people had during the earliest stages of that investigation. The reason that I say that is that when the police released this information out into the public about Nicola Bulley and a welfare visit to her house back in January and maybe some personal struggles that she was facing, this changes the entire case, doesn't it? It changes your complete search strategy. It doesn't become a case of, okay, this could be a tragic accident. She's fallen in by the bench here. We're going to check this area. And maybe we'll go up and check the area where she was last seen. That is what seems to be focused on by the police during the earlier stages. But really, what you are saying is, hang on a minute, this woman may have entered the water by her own choice. Which then means that she could have left the area, doesn't it? I mean, it means that she could have left the dog, she could have left her items there, gone back down the towpath and carried on walking further downstream, which, lo and behold, is actually where her body was discovered. Yet the police were very adamant, weren't they, very early on. We don't believe that Nicola Bulley has left the Riverside location. I mean, what did they actually have to suggest that? They didn't have CCTV. Did they have some sort of note? Did they find some sort of note at home, or was a bottle of medication missing? I don't know. But they were very adamant that she didn't leave the Riverside location. We believe that Nicola Bulley has sadly entered the water. So to summarise this particular section of the video, I find it almost impossible to believe that some kind of accident actually took place by the bench area. Really, for the following reasons. One, it is incredibly shallow where that bench is located. Secondly, police divers were in the water within hours of Nicola Bulley's disappearance. We also know that that part of the river is actually fairly slow moving. Yes, it picks up after the weir location, but we're not talking about that, are we? We're talking about just below the bench, if some kind of tragic accident did actually take place. You would imagine, as Peter Fording has said in countless TV interviews, that the body wouldn't move very far. We also know that statistically speaking, if you do some research online about how bodies behave in water, you'll know that that body would not have moved very far during the first few hours, if not the first few days. So it's very hard to comprehend that some kind of accident actually transpired directly below that bench area. So that leaves us with two other possibilities. Either Nicola Bulley left the location and entered further downstream, or something else happened to Nicola Bulley and the body was put back into the river. Now, my personal opinion is that Nicola Bulley entered the water at some stage further down the river path. That's my own personal belief. Obviously, at this stage, without the presence of the autopsy and the toxicology reports, all possibilities at this point in time still remain open. So just bear that in mind. That's my own personal belief, that Nicola Bulley entered the water somewhere further down the river path. I can understand why her body is located where it is and where it was found where it was, but what I'm struggling with is how the body was missed the entire time. Bearing in mind that the police actually thought or even suggested that she may have gone all the way out to sea, which is quite a considerable distance from where that body is actually discovered. So you have to believe that at some stage this particular area would have been searched incredibly thoroughly. Not just this area, but the area from the weir back downstream to where her body was ultimately discovered. I think for a lot of people, this case revolves around the bench area and Nicola falling in at that particular spot, or some third-party involvement here. And I think we need to be open to the possibility that Nicola has simply left this location. For me, that explains why the body is located where it is. No, it doesn't explain why the body wasn't found, but it does at least explain to me why it is found in that particular location. I've also heard quite a lot of discussion online about this particular towpath and, well, surely if she exited back downstream, surely she would have been seen by other dog walkers. I think we need to also remember that this was a very cold January morning, and it was also widely reported that there are fewer dog walkers out in that particular area than was normal. We also know that that particular area is not covered by CCTV. We also know that the police continually asked for dashcam footage from the wrong road. They were looking for dashcam footage on Garstang Road and not Blackpool Lane. For me personally, the biggest mystery in all of this is why the body was not discovered sooner. The only way that I can rationalise it is, as I explained in a previous video, the fact that the river did rise, it did peak and then drop suddenly just the day before, on the 18th of February, the day before her body was discovered. And combined with the location itself, the fact that there's thick vegetation, reeds, there's an overhanging tree with branches sticking out of the water, the only way that I can piece this together in terms of it being a natural occurrence is that this body was somehow entrapped under the water for a length of time, and this sharp rise and fall in the river level has actually made the body float to the surface. Also combine that with the recent change in weather temperature. The temperatures had risen in the days leading up to that discovery, but that's really the only way that I can rationalise it in my mind in terms of it being found in that particular location. There are still so many questions regarding the disappearance of Nicola Bulley. Anyway, do let me know your own thoughts and theories down in the comments section below. I'll be sure to check those out. If you found this video helpful, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel down below. And I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.